Okay, guys, so please turn your cameras on, everyone, because we're gonna start. We're gonna get started already. So please try to have your cameras on. I really need you to turn them on. Okay, then. So we're gonna continue with what we were doing. We started the last class, which is basically just going over the types of questions that you have in the reading section. Remember when in the reading? And last class we went through vocabulary questions and also the detailed type of questions. And I know I said that we were taking our time because those were important types of questions and very frequent types of questions. And today we're going to hurry up a bit more, but we're going to continue with that. So the first one we will see is the exact type of question. We're going to continue using the same example, the one by the ETS website. So it's going to be, it's not going to be like you're not going to be so lost. So the exact type of question. Now, in this question, to be honest, I think it's pretty similar to the detailed question. You know, they're asking for detailed information that's usually directly stated in the passage. But in this case, they're not asking for information that is mentioned, but on the other hand, they're asking for information that's not mentioned in the passage. So things that are not said in the passage. Now, that doesn't mean that it's implied information or something. It's basically something that's not at all there. So you have no evidence to kind of find that piece of information that you have in your options. We will see with an example. It's not such a frequent question, but it's still, you know, I think you always get at least one of them. So it is, you know, it's there. We have to see it. And the best way to answer this type of question is, of course, by eliminating options. If they're asking for information that's not in the passage, then within your options, you have to go through them by one and identify the ones that are mentioned. And of course, the one that you have left after eliminating the three first ones, that's going to be your choice, right? You will see what I mean in a bit. So we will see with this example here, as I was saying, same passage, and I think it's actually the same example here. So, all right. Will anybody please read the question number 3 that we have here? And the options. Maybe Adriana? Want to read this?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. Yes. Which of the following is not mentioned in paragraph 2 as a main factor in the development of Teotihuacan? I need to read the possible answers.
Yeah, please.
The presence of obsidian in the Tehuacan Valley, the potential for extensive irrigation of Tehuacan Valley lands, a long period of volcanic inactivity in the Teotihuacan Valley, Teotihuacan's location on a natural trade route.
Okay, thanks so much, Adriana. So the best way to answer this is, as I was saying, by eliminating options. And in order to do that, you need to take care of two things. So the first one is being sure to understand what the question is, identifying your keywords and looking for them in the passage, and then narrowing down your information once more. And what you will find is you will find that you have like a recipe in the paragraph. So you have, it's like a recipe basically. So you have like a list of things that you need to be checking, you know, and looking for the ones that you do have and eliminating them. And then the one that you have left, that's going to be your answer. So let's see. First of all, let's try to understand what they're asking for in the question. So which of the following is not mentioned in paragraph 2? Okay, that's just part of the question. And the keywords, what do you guys think the keywords are? Remember the keywords? I would say it is as a main factor in the development of Teotihuacan. That's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for something that's not mentioned as a main factor in the development of Teotihuacan. So we're gonna look for those words here. So can you guys tell me where to find that? In this, I know we haven't read, but just by scanning the thing, because we read this last class. So
the keyword is in the second sentence.
great, there you go. Among the main factors are, remember what I said last class? I said that in order to know what the paragraph is about, all you can do is just basically read the first line, right? How did this tremendous development take place? And why did it happen in the Teotihuacan Valley? The main factors are, and now we have our keywords here, main factors in the development of Teotihuacan. Basically we have like a rhetorical question at the beginning and then the answer to that question. So among the main factors are, now I want you to pay attention to this. We have a list of elements here. This, in, like literally speaking, is called an enumeration because you have a lot of commas, like this one here and this one here. And it's a list of things. As I was saying, it's like a recipe. So among the main factors are Teotihuacan's geographic location, that's one. I don't know, the obsidian resources in the Teotihuacan Valley itself, resources, that's two. And we have three, the valley's potential for extensive irrigation. That's four. Okay, so we have a list of 4 things here. So everything you guys need to do to answer the question is go one by one through them and figure out what's missing. So geographic location. Of course, now you gotta be careful here. Remember synonyms? So not everything is, pink. You're not gonna find the exact same thing, something like Teotihuacan's geographic location on a natural trade route, blah, blah, blah. No, okay, maybe you have some synonyms. So you've gotta be careful there. For instance, in this case, you don't have exactly the same thing. Instead of geographic location, you just have Teotihuacan's location on a natural trade route. But it's the same thing, it's a paraphrase. So since that is mentioned as one of the factors, then we eliminate that option. So you do the same thing for the other ones, and you got your answer. So what do you guys think the answer is?
Oh, I think it's C.
C. Good. A long period of volcanic inactivity in the Teotihuacan Valley. That's perfect. That's right. Because B is also mentioned here, extensive irrigation, and A, obsidian resources, is also mentioned there. Now, I know that looks too easy, but some people get mixed up here. You know what some people will do? They will go and continue reading, forgetting about the keywords and everything. So they would read the entire paragraph and they would say, okay, the exact role of other factors, like the ingenuity, forsythness, volcanic eruptions. So they will continue reading the entire paragraph and they would be like, okay, but I think they're mentioning something about volcanic thing here. So I'm not completely sure that C is the answer. And they're gonna freak out because they think that everything's there. So that's what you don't have to do, guys. Remember, keywords. Now, another thing that's very key in the reading section, and let me write this down for you, is quantifiers. Okay, that's something that I've seen a lot, and I've seen tons of people get the wrong answer because of this. So it isn't the same main factors as other factors. It's not the same, the main factors and the secondary factors. It's not a difference in quality, but in quantity. So the main factors, the other factors. And I've seen things like that over and over again in this reading section. So sometimes you have something like, I don't know, maybe these animals always do that. And then in your option, you have something that says, these animals sometimes do that. So there's a difference, between saying always and sometimes. I've seen something like, this photographer never captured animals. And you have something like the photographer hardly ever capture animals. So it's not the same thing. Be careful with these quantifiers like some or a lot or many or few, or sometimes frequency adverbs like never or sometimes or always. So those little things that are modifying your information, that's tricky. And a lot of people get mixed up because of them. They go through them like very quickly. They don't realize that they may be making a mistake because of them. So careful with that. And one little tip that I could give you for this type of question is always look for that list of things. Okay, it's usually that list of things that you will find within one sentence, likely. So as you can see, the answer was within one sentence here up until the period, and that's it. It's not in the entire paragraph. So usually you will have something like that. I'm not saying always, but usually. So make sure that you narrow your information down. You're careful with those quantifiers. And yeah, I would say that this one is one of the easiest ones. To be honest, you just have to basically go one by one until you find the one that's not there. You know what I mean? Any questions about this? You okay? Not hard, right? Okay. So moving on to the next one, we have the inference type of question. Now, yeah, if I have to, I'm not gonna lie, it's not that easy as the previous one. So we're gonna take a bit more time. Now, this inference type of question, you always get 2 per passage. So it's really important that you guys master this type of question. What they're asking for is information that's not directly stated in the paragraph, but that it's somehow there. Okay, so it's not the same as this except type of question. Remember, I was saying you're gonna have 0 evidence of your answer. So it's not gonna be anywhere in the paragraph. Now, the difference in this case is that the information that they're asking for is there, but it's just not explicitly said. So you will find it there, or you will kind of be able to come up to that conclusion, even though it's not gonna be like literally written down. Okay, so they're asking, in other words, for implied information. So information that you have to basically do some reasoning to get. So you have to use your logic and think about it for a while and try to look for the bigger picture until you come to your conclusion. So you have to do some logic here. It's not just about finding the answer, but about getting to the answer. So, okay, so it's all about logic. Let's see. Okay, so maybe, Rodrigo, do you mind reading the question for us?
Yes. What can be inferred from paragraph 3 about Cuicuilco prior to 200 BC? A, it was a fairly small city until that date. B, it was located outside the Valley of Mexico. C, it emerged rapidly as an economical and political center. D, its economy relied heavily on agriculture.
Okay, thanks so much. So now we're gonna read the paragraph. Okay, when you have this, what can be inferred, that's the same thing always, what can be inferred about, or what can be inferred from about, it's always gonna be the same thing. When you have that question, you need to read the entire paragraph. There's no other way around. You know that in the vocabulary questions, you didn't need to read everything. In the detailed questions either, but in this case, you have to read the entire paragraph. I'm not saying the entire passage, but just the entire paragraph. So we have to read this entire thing. But I think it's better if we read it on on our own. So we're not gonna read it loud, but I'll give you like 2 minutes to read this, okay? So please read this paragraph here, and we will try to get to the answer. Okay, guys. So are you all done? Okay. So anybody can guess what the answer is? Anybody, any ideas?
I think it's B. It says it was
B,
located
it was located at.
in the of Mexico.
Oh, all right. And can you tell me why?
Yeah, because in the second sentence it says a number of relatively small centers coexisted in and near the Valley of Mexico. So it means it's outside, but it's close to the Valley of Mexico.
Okay, good. Thanks, you. All right. Any other ideas? Anything has something different in mind?
I think it is the last D. Its economy relied heavily on agriculture because when the
Okay.
was covered on lava, its power was declined.
Okay. So, okay, you say when the land was covered by lava, they decline, right? And that's why you think that its economy relied heavily on agriculture? Okay,
Yes.
okay, that's good. All right, great, Ren, good. Anybody else? Okay, guys. So, yes, actually, Ruben was right. The answer is D. Its economy relied heavily on agriculture. And he's also right about why, you know? But let's think about it for a while. So what Diego was saying, it makes sense, you know, it's kind of there. It says, relatively small centers coexisted in and near the Valley of Mexico. It's very tricky and it's tempting to choose B, okay? But we have two problems here. The first one is, how do we know for sure that it was near the Valley of Mexico or in and not in the Valley of Mexico? So it could be in, you know, could be inside the Valley of Mexico. And in that case, it wouldn't be outside, you know? We don't really have that, like that evidence to come to the conclusion that it was outside the Valley of Mexico. It's so unclear. They're saying it could be in or it could be near the Valley of Mexico. So we don't know unless you have like that later says something like the 20 kilometers close or 20 kilometers near Teotihuacan. So in that case, yes, you would have evidence to come to the conclusion that it was outside the Valley of Mexico. But Otherwise, you don't really have that strong evidence to come to that. And the second thing is, it would be too easy. Believe me, for this type of question, what can be inferred, the question itself is telling you that you have to like reason it out, you have to come to inferences. That's why it's an inference type of question. So it's, as I said, it's not gonna be explicitly there. Even if we have something like coexist near the Valley of Mexico, I personally would believe that would be too easy for this type of question. It's never gonna be there, like literally there. So my advice is you have to look for something that's not so obvious, and also something that it's like a sequence of events. I always see it that way. It's like a sequence of events and you're missing something else. So as Ruben was saying, Cuicuilco first was one of the greatest centers, right? The largest of the centers. I think it was a very powerful city. And what happened? Then this volcanic thing happened, the volcanic eruption, and the agricultural land was covered by lava. So we have the first event, Cuicuilco being a great city. Second, we have the volcanic eruption happening, the agricultural land being covered by lava. And then the third thing that we know is directly that Cuicuilco was eliminated as a potential rival, right? But something's missing here. They're not really explaining why Cuicuilco was eliminated as a potential rival. And that's what we need to figure out. That's the step that's missing here. And that is this one here, right? Its economy relied heavily on agriculture. So you can try to add that sentence and it will work perfectly. You could say, since its economy was relied heavily on agriculture, Cuicuilco was eliminated as a potential rival. So that's the step that's missing. Okay, so I know it's a bit hard and it's a bit tricky, but you gotta think that way. Now for option A and C, you don't really have that much evidence to support that, It was a fairly small city until that day. We're looking at prior to 200 BC, right? Prior to 200 BC. So it wasn't a small city, right? It was one of the largest cities, the largest of the centers. So it couldn't be A. We don't have that evidence. And C, it emerged rapidly as an economical and political center. So again, it's out there, but it's kind of up in the air. We don't have evidence to support this. Like, you don't really have. Another thing or another tip that I could give you for this type of question is try to, when you're reading the entire paragraph, try to make a summary in this case. So try to think about what's the most important thing that's being mentioned in the paragraph. In this case, it will be the volcanic eruption. We're talking about the volcanic eruption and Cuicuilco. So that's like the most important thing. And usually when you have something like what can be inferred from paragraph 3, so it's gonna be around the most important thing. It's gonna be about the little details, like the archaeological evidence, or maybe a little date there. So it's usually around the main big thing. So those are some tips that I could give you. First, it's never gonna be that obvious. It's not gonna be so explicit there. Second, you have to have some evidence. Even though it's an inference question, you need evidence. You cannot just select one randomly. You need some evidence. In this case, we have evidence here. Third, think like you had like a sequence of events, and the event that's missing, that's gonna be your answer. And fourth, what was the fourth one? Try to summarize the paragraph and think about the main thing. That's usually related to your answer. So the only one that's related to the agricultural thing and the volcanic thing is this one, right? Because we're talking about the agricultural land. The other things like the location or whether it was a small city or not, so those are not so big things within this paragraph, So is that okay? Do you all get why D is the answer? Any questions? So great, Lorraine, you got it right. Good reasoning. All right. Then let's move on to the next one, purpose questions. So these purpose questions sometimes take a lot of time, not gonna lie. So what they're asking for here is basically the function or the purpose of something. Like, what is the purpose of this sentence? Or what is the purpose of that word? Or what is the purpose of that paragraph? Or sometimes they ask something like, why does the author include this sentence? Or why does the author include that word? Okay, so basically they're asking for the why of things, the author's choices. It's like analyzing literature. Like when you analyze literature, you're constantly asking yourself, like, why does the author include this? Or why does the author say that? So it's basically like that. Okay, so you have three options here. They could be either asking for the purpose of a word, like why does the author include the word advocate? They could be asking for the purpose of a sentence or a phrase. So why does the author talk about this? Or if you're not so lucky, they're going to be asking about the purpose of a paragraph. Like, what is the main function of paragraph 3 in the passage? So my advice, if you're doing what we're doing right now, when you're in the test and you decide to skip reading the passage and you go hand by hand, the way that we're doing it right now, as you can see, you can actually answer most of the questions without reading the entire thing. You know, we answer all of them without reading. But if you have a purpose for the purpose of a paragraph, my advice, leave it till the end. Okay, so you skip this question, you choose one random, and after you're done reading the entire, after you're done answering the entire 10 questions for that passage, you go back to that and you answer. Because you're gonna have more idea, like you're I don't know. You know, when you go to oh my, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize my connection was weak. Where was I? What was the last thing you heard? You there? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't know where we go. Okay. So it will help me if your cameras were on, you know? Well, let's see. So all right, so I was saying, shall we read the question? Maybe we can have I don't know. Fernanda, you want to read the question?
Yes.
Okay, go there.
In paragraph 6, the author discusses the driving obsidian operation in order to A. Explain why manufacturing was the main industry of Teotihuacan. B. Give an example of an industry that took very little time to develop in Teotihuacan. C. Illustrate how several factors influence each other to make Teotihuacan a powerful and wealthy city. D. Explain how a successful industry can be a source of wealth and a source of conflict at the same time.
Okay, thank you so much, Fernando. So now I'll give you all like 2 minutes to read the paragraph. Please read and try to figure out what the answer could be. So you read now. Okay, so what do you reckon? Which one is it gonna be?
I think it's D. Explain
D.
how successful industry can be a source of wealth and source of conflict at the same time.
Okay, and why D?
The conflict says in the end, more irrigation works would have to be defeated. Oh, and they resulted in more power and no. Oh, it was in, yeah, here. Would give them the means to physically coerce people to move to, in addition to labor force, because it's like slaving. And the successful industry, because it make people come to the city and made it better.
All right. Okay, I kind of know what you mean. So yes, like coercing people to move to the city and serving as additions to the labor force. Yeah, that's basically slaves. And the industry source of wealth. So yeah, I think most of the paragraph is explaining how it was a source of wealth. Okay, I gotcha. Anyone else? Anybody else has a different answer? You all agree with D?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
I think
Yasmina, you
that
too?
is C.
Okay, good. When why C?
Because it's mentioned many factors that influence its rise. And here there is a specific sentence that is relative just with the wealthy city, and I couldn't find nothing about the conflict at the same time. So I would like to choose this
Okay.
one. Yeah.
Okay, great, Yasmina. Thanks, that's great. I like it when you have different opinions. All right, let's talk about it though. So I have a pretty good tip for this one, for this type of question, especially when you have something like, what is the purpose of a phrase or of something, you know, that could be a word, it could be a sentence, or in this case, it's like, you know, why is the author mentioning this, the thriving obsidian operation? Why is the author taking the time to explain this operation? Like, why is that relevant into our paragraph? So the best tip I could give you for this type of question, I don't mean that, well, even then, you know. So one thing you could do is, remember I said, always try to read the first sentence, and that's what the paragraph is going to be about. You know, it's not only what the paragraph is going to be about, but it's like a claim. I don't know if you guys remember the writing section, but remember that in the integrated writing, you needed to look for claims, and you have the claim usually at the beginning of the paragraph. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you remember that example of driverless cars. So driverless cars are good for the environment. And then you have a lot of explanation on why or how. But basically, everything that comes after that first sentence is just supporting the first sentence. Okay, so this is the claim, or this is the main thing of the paragraph, the first sentence. And believe me that everything else that the professor, or I'm sorry, that the author in this case is gonna be talking about is just in order to support this claim here made at the beginning. So the author says, the picture of Teotihuacan that emerges is a classical picture of, or it's a classic picture of positive feedback among obsidian mining, working, trade, population growth, irrigation, religious tourism. And as Jasmina says, we have different factors here, right? All of these are factors: mining, working, trade, blah, blah. So that is the claim. Now, everything else that the author is mentioning is supporting that thing at the beginning. That's a good way to see this. So believe me, whenever you have something like, why does the author discuss this, or this here, or this, the thriving obsidian operation, it's usually going to be to support this claim. But of course, that's not going to be one of your options, right? To support the main claim or to support the claim at the beginning. So you need to find paraphrases of that. Now, there are different ways in which the author can support this claim. If you look at the options, we have explain why, give an example, illustrate how, explain how. So by illustrating, giving examples, explaining why or explaining how, doesn't really matter, but all of them are possible options on how the author is trying to support this claim here. We just need to figure out what the right one is. So in this case, I would say it's pretty, it's not that hard to find out why, you know, the author is discussing this. We look at our keywords, the thriving obsidian operation, okay? We continue reading. For example, would necessitate more miners, additional manufacturers of obsidian tools, blah, blah, blah. So I'm asking you guys, for example, the thriving obsidian operation, for example, that means that the thriving obsidian operation, first of all, is an example. So what I'm going to ask you now is, what is this thriving obsidian operation an example for? What is this thriving obsidian operation exemplifying? What is that? Can you tell me why? What? The thriving obsidian operation, for example of what?
Maybe of development.
Of development, yes. But basically, again, the first line, right? And it's development. Yes, you're paraphrasing it, but it's basically, it's an example of how Teotihuacan, or how the picture of Teotihuacan that emerges is a classical picture of positive feedback among blah, blah, blah. That's what the example is for, right? Because it goes, it's like if I say, a lot of people, or I don't know, Bolivia has many talented people. And then I say, I don't know, whatever, like Pedro Ramirez, for example, is a talented singer. You know what I mean? So the first sentence, Bolivia has a lot of talented people. That's my claim. And then I say, Pedro Ramirez, for example, and then I'm exemplifying basically talented people in Bolivia, right? So that's exactly how this is, how this works. So what you need to do is pay attention to this whenever you have these connectors. If you had something like, for instance, or to illustrate, or even if you had it here, like to illustrate the thriving obsidian operation would necessitate more miners, or exemplifying, or it's something like take the thriving obsidian operation as an example. Okay, so careful with these words. They are basically giving you a good idea of what the answer could be. Now you have, for example, and if you look at B and C, they both could be the possible answers, you know, because B goes, give an example and illustrate how. So illustrate, give an example. Now, option A and D, though, they are not really going there. Option A, for instance, says explain why. So if you have something like explain why, you would need a because here. You would need something like the picture of Teotihuacan that emerges is a classical picture, blah, 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 because the thriving obsidian operation would necessitate more miners, right? Or since, or as, whatever. But that's explaining why. So A couldn't be the answer. And now explaining how, in this case, for instance, what I would need is a by. Maybe the picture of Teotihuacan is a classical picture of positive feedback by using the thriving obsidian operation, or they did this by doing that. So that would be explaining how, you know? So two things that you need to be careful with, or that you could do here. Understand what the claim or the main idea is. Understand or know that everything else is usually going to be supporting that main idea, and find a good paraphrase of that. Now, I'm not sure if the main idea of this paragraph is whether this could be a source of wealth and conflict at the same time. I'm not sure whether that's the main idea. I would say that the main idea is how this was a positive or a classic picture of positive feedback, which basically means that all of the factors like mining and religion and population growth, basically everything helped. It was like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like everything was helping the other factor. Like population growth made religion better, and religion made mining better, and so on. You know, so everything was like, I don't know, like cooperating to create something positive, basically. So you need to find a paraphrase of that. And as Jasmila was saying, how several factors influenced each other to make Teotihuacan a wealthy city, that's what we're looking for, right? How several factors like these ones, blah, 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 I don't know what these ones are, influenced each other. So they helped each other, they cooperated to make Teotihuacan a wealthy city or a prosperous city, I don't know. So is that okay? You all get why? Any questions? Everyone gets why C would be the answer? Yep. So those are some tips I could give you. Look at the main idea and understand that everything is probably going to be supporting that main idea. All right. So next one. Paraphrase questions. Okay, we're here. Okay, in this case, paraphrase questions, well, okay. So as the name suggests, they're going to be asking for synonyms. Basically, they're going to give you a sentence like, blah, 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 I don't know, one sentence, and they're going to ask you what is, or which one of these options is closest to the sentence above or to the sentence below. So you just need to paraphrase the original sentence that they're giving you. I really like this type of questions because you don't need to think that much. You just need to find synonyms. And second, because you don't have to waste so much time here. You don't even need to read the entire paragraph or anything. The only thing you need to read is the sentence, the original sentence, and that's it. You don't need to go back and look at the passage or the paragraph. It's gonna be in your question. So you don't even need to look at the paragraph once more. It's just in the question. They are not so frequent though. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. What else? Okay, this is a tip. Don't choose answers that are missing information, but are include information not mentioned. We're gonna see what we mean here, and be aware of switch roles and relationships. Sometimes you have the same thing, but in a different order. Like maybe the subject is at the end, maybe it's in the passive voice and the original one is in the active voice. So we're gonna see that. And yeah, please never read the entire passage or the entire paragraph, because that's just gonna confuse you. So let's see. Okay, so in this case, I'm sorry, I didn't find one of these questions in this sample here. Doesn't have any paraphrase questions. So we're gonna have to work with a different one, but it's okay because we don't have to read anything. So here's a question. Which sentence is most similar to the following sentence from paragraph 1? And the sentence goes, the theory is based on the assumption that life developed from non-life and progressed and evolved in an indirect manner. So just to give you a little bit of context, this theory that we're talking about is the theory of evolution. So it's okay if you find that. I think the passage was about Charles Darwin theory of evolution. So that's what we're talking about. Now, what you need to find is the sentence that is most similar to this original sentence within these options. So I'll give you 1 or 2 minutes to read the options and to try to tell me which one do you think is the best or is the most similar one to that original sentence. So please read it now. Okay. So you got it, yeah? Any guesses?
I would go with B, but I would also go with C, but it says according to Darwin, and I don't know if in the paragraph if in paragraph 1 it talk about Darwin.
Okay.
But
so either B or C.
Yeah, either B or C.
Okay, good. And anybody else?
I think it could be A, the first one.
Okay, good. A. And someone else? Okay. So I'm glad that you all are eliminating D. That's a great start. So yeah, D is definitely not the answer. Remember, it has to say the same thing but in different words. And as I was saying, you cannot have additional information nor like you cannot exclude any information that is there, that it's not mentioned in your option. So option D, due to the controversy. So first of all, what controversy are we talking about? It is hard to make assumptions about the theory of evolution. So that's definitely not a good paraphrase of this, is it? Because it's not talking about, okay, one more thing. When you're reading your sentence, make sure you catch the main idea of the sentence. It's usually the most important part. So the theory is based on the assumptions that life developed from non-life and progressed and evolved in an indirect manner. So the purpose of the sentence is explaining what this theory is based on, right? What is this theory based on? The assumptions that life developed. So for sure, option D is not explaining that. It's not telling us anything about what this theory or in what this theory is based. So we are going to eliminate this one. Now, okay, regarding option B. So in this sentence, they're telling us that the theory is based on the assumption that life developed from non-life and progress. I don't know. So the theory is based on this assumption. Now, option B could be a bit tricky, but it's not telling us the same thing because it says based on certain assumptions. Okay, could be. They're not mentioning what assumptions exactly, but okay, let's say it's okay. Now it goes, we can prove that evolution occurs in all living and non-living entities. So is that the same as this one? Well, not really, right? Because, I mean, it's not really that that evolution occurs in living and non-living entities, but that life developed from non-life or living and non-living entities, if you want, So evolution occurs or life developed from non-life. So I don't know. It's kind of like it's a different thing, it's off topic. Wouldn't you agree? So all living and non-living entities, non-living could be, it's a synonym of non-life. But what about living entities? And evolution occurs. So the main idea of this sentence is not trying to explain where evolution occurs, but basically what the theory is based on, right? Not where evolution occurs, but what the theory is based on. So I don't know if you guys get that part. Is it okay if we eliminate B? Yeah, right? It's not the same thing. Now, I gotta be honest, option C is tempting because, okay, so it's kind of saying the same thing, but it's adding something else. Not necessarily this according to Darwin, but the conditional thing. Like if we assume that life at its origin was created from non-organic compounds, perfect, that's non-life, and developed in a non-guided manner, perfect, that's this. But the condition and the result that they're adding, like if we assume this, then his theory holds true. That's something that we don't have here. It's not even the same structure. So this is not like a conditional thing. We're not really conditioning anything. We don't have evidence to prove that his theory would hold true given this, right? It's not there. It's a different structure. And even though it has a good synonym of everything, it's adding something that's not there, We don't know whether his theory is going to hold true or not, and we don't know about this condition here. So it is tempting, I know, because it really looks like it's the one because of the synonyms, like life at its origin. So life was created from, developed, good. Non-life, non-organic compounds, unguided manner, indirect manner. So it has pretty good synonyms, I'm not going to lie. But it's adding something extra. It's adding something that we don't know yet. We don't know that his theory would hold true in this case. So C couldn't be the answer either. Now, if we look at A, it kind of has everything that we need, The theory of evolution or the theory is based or is founded on. Now, the only thing that really makes me doubt is this assumptions thing and evidence, but I think it's pretty close, It's tricky, but it's pretty close because basically, what is the evidence that they had to found this theory? The assumptions, right? So it's kind of the same thing. the evidence for the theory are the assumptions that life developed from non-life and non-progress and blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of missing something, you know, it's missing acknowledging that these are just assumptions. So, but everything else fits, like non-organic compounds, non-life, the same thing, are the basis of life. Basically, you know, life developed from, so the basis of life developed in an unguided way. So evolved in an indirect manner, or progressed and evolved, developed in indirect manner, unguided way. So, and not only that, but it also has kind of like the same structure. It's not always going to be that way, but basically I would say that the best way is by eliminating options, you know, but I don't know. It was a bit tricky. Is that okay though? So Ruben was right. That's good. All right. Now, before we go, because we are missing two, but the next one, I promise it's too easy where you're not even wanna look at it. So the reference question, this is the easiest thing that you could find in the reading section. I think it's like a gift they give you. So basically, everything you need to know here is pronouns, which is a basic thing that you all know, like I, you, he, she, it, or maybe something like indefinite pronouns, like these, those, this, or I don't know. So you just have to know that and you'll be able to answer this question. It's pretty easy. So I don't know, if you have something like, I don't know, maybe like Valencia is or was founded 200 years ago. I don't know, something like this. And then in the next sentence, or maybe in the same sentence, you have something like, it was, I don't know, it was a small city until that date, whatever. Okay, so the question is gonna go, what does it refer to? And everything you need to do is say it refers to Valencia. That's it. Now, of course, they can make it a bit larger. They could say something like Valencia, I don't know, which was this old city, I don't know, this old beautiful city, blah, 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 was founded 2,000 years ago. It was a small city until that date. It will be the same thing. What is it referring to? You have to say Valencia. So maybe they're gonna add something to make it a bit harder, but believe me, I think that you're gonna be able to get through this without hesitation. So let's look at an example before we go. Okay, so you don't need to read everything. Everything you need to read is the sentence where the word is, and maybe sometimes the previous sentence as well. But that's it. You're gonna realize that it's gonna be there. It's quite easy. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna read the question. The word those in paragraph 2 refers to gene pool, survival, natural selection, or traits and characteristics. And you just read this sentence here. Over time, beneficial traits and characteristics that promote survival will be kept in the gene pool, while those that harm survival will be selected against. So what do you guys think those refer to? What does those refer to?
To traits and characteristics.
Good, there you go. Anybody else has a different? No, right? So everything you really need to do is look for the subject of the sentence. So what is the subject? What are we talking about in this sentence? We're talking about beneficial traits and characteristics. So the ones that promote survival are kept in the gene pool, but the ones that harm survival, what ones? Beneficial traits and characteristics that harm survival will be selected against. So believe me, it's quite easy. You don't need to think it twice. It's gonna take you less than 1 minute, I'd say. So go through that very quickly and you're all done. All right, guys, any questions now before we leave? We're missing only one type of question, the summary one, the last one. But we'll look at it maybe next class. We're gonna take like 1 minute for that, or probably I'm gonna talk to your practice teacher to maybe help you out with this type of question, but you'll see it, no worries. Any questions though? Are we okay with everything?
Yes.
All right, so I'll start today's survey. Please, before you leave, answer that for me, those 3 questions, and then you can go.
Bye, Miss. Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye, teacher.
Bye-bye.